Ladies and gentlemen, we hear a bell, and that's what happened when Lincoln's train came. A bell solitary was ringing. So it was perfect that we have this now at 11 o'clock when Lincoln's body came to Chicago again. I'm Daniel Weinberg, and I'm with the 77-year-old Abraham Lincoln Bookshop. I want to welcome all of you to this commemoration. I first want to thank Alderman Robert Fioretti and his staff, especially Timothy Stevens and Leslie Reck, for bringing this commemoration to fruition. This truly was above and beyond the normal, and we should all be grateful to them. The Chicago Park District and the Chicago Cultural Mile Association were totally supportive. Julia Backrack and Shireen Shariatzadeh were totally supportive as well, and were at the forefront of these efforts, and we remain grateful to them. The Chicago Military Academy graciously lent us their color guard, I think. Civil War author and historian Robert Girardi, the flag, was instrumental in putting together the Civil War period honor guard for us, and thanks to Gerald Boldak for agreeing to play taps at the end of our ceremony. Lincoln photographic historian David Carroll was crucial in finding the exact spot that we are in right now, although we are a number of feet above grade at the time. The staff of Abraham Lincoln Bookshop, thank you. We could not accomplish this without you. Matt Blanton, Sylvia Castle, and Bjorn Skaptison. Now let's begin the official ceremony. Let's present the colors.
Forward! March, march! March, go! Left, right! Breathe, that!
Let's all say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Right! Hey! Forward! March!
Eleven cities hosted official ceremonies. 11 state and territorial governors were on the train, including Richard Oglesby of Illinois. In New York City, people complained about the body. Discoloration is daily increasing, and it is thought the coffin cannot be opened after leaving the city. But an embalmer was with the train and allowed us to view the body all the way to Springfield. There are some historical material artifacts in this case, and you're welcome to come up afterward. You'll see a sketch by Pierre Moran, who was in New York and sketched the body in the coffin. Notice the flowers, which are there not only for memorialization, but also because of the stench after almost 20 days of the body. At 11 a.m. on May 1st, 1865, the funeral train arrived here at Park Place, also known as Park Row, opposite Lake Park to the north of us. This was the last and closest it could get to land before the trestle carried the tracks of the Illinois Central Railroad out into the lake half a mile and to Grand Central Station at now Randolph Street. Guns saluted and bells tolled. The earthly remains of President Lincoln once again touched the soil of Illinois, his adopted home state. There was a heavy stillness of death reigning over the onlooking mourners, with only the tolling of bells throughout the city. Here is what the scene looked like. And you will see the Park Row homes that would have been right along where you're standing right now, with the street 1 block coming here to the lake. All the rest, you know, is the 1871 fire debris. So the lake would have been right here in the trestle. Here is an arch that would have been right over here, 40 feet tall. And you see the color guard waiting. You'll see a band performing. You'll see a camera right there taking photographs of the scene in front of them. And almost like a moving picture, there were 36 states and 36 young high school girls dressed in white with a crepe on them. They had a lily in their hand, and they walked around the hearse to the coffin and then placed the lily on there. We will recreate that a little later on, but like a moving picture, you see them here going around the hearse right there. The funeral arch was designed by W.W. Boynton and was in a triple Gothic form, standing over 40 feet tall, as I said, adorned with flags and draped with crape, with an eagle at the apex. Some of the wording was, "An honest man's the noble word of God. Our union, cemented in patriot blood, shall stand forever. Rest in peace, noble soul, patriot heart." Every building, as you can see, along Park Row was handsomely draped. There was so much black crepe everywhere that it seemed heaven itself was mourning. That of John V. Eyre in the middle displayed 2 large flags with white stars on a background bearing at the center the initials A.L. Those of Solon McElroy and Alderman G.C. Wicker, right here as well, were also draped in flags. People were in the windows, on the roofs, in the trees, and on the lampposts. The rain of the night before and the early morning had dampened the decorations, but it stopped before the train pulled in, and as today, the sun broke out over the still waters of Lake Michigan. The crowds were immense by 9 a.m. The various contingents for the funeral cortege were in place by 10. The coffin was removed from the train and placed in the hearse at 11 p.m. 150 years ago, right now. A band of brasses and drums, as you see in the picture, played a piece especially written for the occasion called the Lincoln Requiem. The funeral procession left the arch, went to Michigan Avenue and turned north, west on Lake Street and south on Clark Street to the courthouse. The hearse was pulled by 8 matched black horses and was flanked by 6 pallbearers, all personal friends of Lincoln from Chicago. In the parade were generals and dignitaries, thousands of soldiers, trade union members, and ordinary people, including a reported 10,000 school children. You may view an original order of the procession in the display case after the commemoration. Lincoln lay in state from 6 p.m. this evening, 150 years ago, until the following day, May 2nd, when his coffin was removed and placed on the train that left for Springfield at 9:30 a.m. Now to represent the city of Chicago, Alderman Robert Fioretti of the 2nd Ward, where we're in. Alderman.
Thank you. And thank you, Dan. I do want to, again, say thank you to the people that helped sponsor this. I want to say to the Chicago Cultural Mile, Shireen, J.R. Davis, for the work and the effort that they, as we pulled them in at the last moment, and they were so excited about this event. Before I start my remarks, I do want to say historically too, we should realize that 500,000 people lined the route as the Hearst left this spot to go to the Cook County courthouse. It went down Michigan Ave to Lake Street, and then it turned on to Clark. Chicago's population at that time was only 300,000 people. That night when they began the visitation, 7,000 people an hour passed by the body of Abraham Lincoln here in this city. And so when we commemorate, as I say my remarks, I want to say Lincoln knew Chicago, and Chicago knew Lincoln. As a lawyer, Lincoln came to Chicago regularly in the 1850s, whether at the U.S. District Courthouse or the Circuit Court. He was well renowned as an honest man and a powerful speaker. After his hard days of work, reviewing claims made against the Illinois and Michigan Canal, or working on a patent infringement trial, or doing legal work for the Illinois Central Railroad, he would usually retire to the Tremont Hotel. It was in Chicago where Lincoln met with businesses and political leaders to explore his possible presidential candidacy in 1860, and he was nominated for President of the United States at the Republican National Convention. 150 years ago today, on May 1st, 1865, Abraham Lincoln would make his last visit to the city of Chicago. Hundreds of thousands gathered here, and thousands more would pay their respects at the Cook County Courthouse. Though Abraham Lincoln is gone from us now, his words and his legacy are with us for the ages. And he is remembered for so many poignant and inspiring quotes for all of us. 3 quotes, though, have always resonated with me, and I would like to repeat them here today. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. He also said, whatever you are, be a good one. And lastly, it is, in the end, it is not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. Let us use this historic day, this commemoration, to let his words, his life, his love of country be an inspiration for all of us. Let us use his incredible compassion, discipline, and his life's journey to inspire us. Whatever we are, be a good one. Our city, our country, our world needs that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Now I wish to introduce Imon Rami, Director of Educational and Public Programming for DuSable Museum, a producer, director, and administrator. In 2013, Mr. Rami was selected an Illinois Humanities Rhodes Scholar and has been given numerous other awards. We'll talk about the Great Migration, because the entry point was near here, of which millions of African Americans came into the urban Northeast, Midwest, and West, occurring from 1910 to 1970.
First of all, I'd like to start by thanking Daniel and the Alderman for having me here to participate. I'd also like to pay honor to those young people that are standing behind me that are doing positive work today and participating in this event. And I commend them for standing there in salute and for providing an opening to this program. I would also like to start this by, I can't talk about the DuSable Museum of African American History without talking about the fact that Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable, the founding father of Chicago, started this city not far from here. At Wacker in Michigan, he set up his first trading post. and became the first non-native settler to set up a business and became the first entrepreneur in Chicago, which was then called as Chicago. So I must also pay homage to DuSable. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution, as most of you know, was ratified in Illinois. It was the first state to sign on to the ratification. And of course, Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. Next year, we will be celebrating the Great Migration. And a lot of the work that happened in terms of people coming from the South to the North can be attributed to two things. One, the work of the Chicago Defender, and the other to what Illinois represented to people in the South in terms of possibility. But I want to end this comment, or my comments today, with a quote from Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist, regarding Abraham Lincoln. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, it was a new crime, a pure act of malice. No purpose of the rebellion was to be served by it. It was the simple gratification of hell black spirit of revenge. Had Abraham Lincoln died for any of the numerous ills to which flesh is heir, had he reached the good old age of which his vigorous constitution and his temperate habits gave promise, had he been permitted to see the end of his great work, had the solemn curtain of death come down but gradually, we would still have been smitten with a heavy grief and treasured his name lovingly. But dying as he did, by the red hand of violence, killed, assassinated, taken off without warning, not because of personal hate, for no man who knew Abraham Lincoln could hate him, but because of his fidelity to union and liberty. He is indubitably dear to us, and his memory will be precious forever. We thank you for participating and allowing us to be here, and we hope that you'll come to the DuSable Museum to continue to celebrate with us as we look at the 150th year of the Emancipation Proclamation and the other events centered around that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for those great words. We thought it appropriate to follow in the footsteps of what they did here in the sesquicentennial. And so we, as I showed you in the photograph, there were 36 young women, each with a flower, that placed the flower onto the coffin of Lincoln. We don't have the coffin here, but we do have Mr. Lincoln in an engraving by William Edgar Marshall in 1866. And we invite you to come over, please, each of you, and take a lily or two and place it in front of Lincoln's picture here, as they did 150 years ago today. You would have been silent. with a nod to Walt Whitman. When lilacs last in the dooryard bloomed, and the great star early drooped in the western sky in the night, I mourned, and yet shall mourn with ever-returning spring. Ever-returning spring, Trinity sure to me you bring, lilac blooming, perennial and drooping star in the west, and thought of him I love. Oh, how shall I warble myself for the dead one there I loved, and how shall I deck my song for the large, sweet soul that has gone, and what shall my perfume be for the grave of him I love? Sea winds blown from east and west, blown from the eastern sea, and blown from the western sea, till there on the prairies meeting. These and with these in the breath of my chant, I'll perfume the grave of him I love. Will the honor guard please present?
Present arms. Hold up, arms. Right wheel, march.
We thank you all for attending the sesquicentennial commemoration. Thank you.